Welcome everyone to the first CoSTAR Ideate Growth Lab and Residency information session. My name is Nicole Stewart-Rushworth. I'm the Enterprise and Commercialisation Producer at the CoSTAR National Lab. Today we'll be taking you through an overview of the Ideate programme with a short presentation from our colleagues at the National Lab and at Live Lab and our colleagues over at Codebase. There'll be then an opportunity to dig into any of your questions you have relating to the programme, the application process, or any of the various offers available. Speaking today, we have Fiona Kilkelly, Head of Enterprise and Commercialisation at CoSTAR National Lab, Miles Burney, Head of Innovation at CoSTAR National Lab, Professor Damien Murphy, Professor of Sound and Music Computing at CoSTAR Live Lab, Glenn Kelly, Programme Manager at CoSTAR Live Lab, and Billy Franks, PhD student in Design Informatics with Codebase. We're also supported today by Kylie Bryant, Senior Producer at the CoSTAR National Lab, who will be on hand to help with any questions and technical issues. Thank you for joining the session, and I'll hand over to Fiona. That's our agenda.
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, Nicole. Perfect. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for an hour today. I'm just going to start by setting the scene as to what CoSTAR Network is. I'll give you a little quick overview. So the CoSTAR Network is a national research and development network for creative technologies. We're funded by Arts Humanities Research Council, part of UKRI, to the tune of £70+ million. It's the largest investment a HRC have made ever into the creative sector. So that gives you an idea of the scale of support on offer. It is infrastructure funding. So this is a slightly different way to what many of us are familiar with in terms of how government R&D funding works. So this funding is for a series of supporting activity from a collection of labs right across the UK. And that map that you see there gives you an understanding of where they are. And we've got a Foresight lab in London, which is led by Goldsmiths University with BNI in Loughborough. And their job is to look at capturing and disseminating industry knowledge, trends, insights with the sector. Then we have Live Lab in Wakefield, led by the University of York. We've got Damien and Glenn on the call today. They're with Production Park, and they are focusing on the future of live performance. And next we have Screen Lab in Belfast. That's with Ulster University and Studio Ulster, and they're looking at developing knowledge within creative technology and real-time technology based out of Northern Ireland. Then we have Real Time Lab in Scotland, led by Arbite University with Watershed Studio, and they're working around supporting the games R&D cluster up in Scotland and utilising Edinburgh's AI expertise. And then you've got us. We're at the National Lab, and our focus is slightly different in that we also look at really early stage research and development, but we also run what we're calling access programs. And the access programs for you on the call are the two main ways in and out of this CoSTAR network. Well, two of the main ways in and out of the CoSTAR network in terms of direct support. One of those ways is through the Prototype and Pilot program, which supports companies to develop new IP, experience, solutions, products and services by providing access to the CoSTAR's network, technical infrastructure and research expertise. So the focus is on companies doing research and development in the creative sector. And currently there is a call live with Production Park and York University with Live Lab called New Frontiers for Live Performance. And that closes, I think, in about 6 or 7 days. And the team you have today with you, Nicole and I, were from the second access program, which is called Enterprise and Commercialisation. So next slide, please, Nicole. Our team and the focus of the enterprise and commercialization strand of work at CoSTAR Network is really is built on these pillars. That's you in the center, your teams, your ideas, your ambitions to develop new IP. We bring you in, and around that, we provide you with access to the CoSTAR Network Lab and facilities. We provide you with access to the creative and technical expertise to use those facilities and access to the research expertise on our research base. We will then wrap around that business growth, IP development, and commercialization support, bespoke to you and the unique innovation cycles of the creative industries. And we'll also provide expert one-to-one mentorship and support, which will be mapped against your company and your IP development and journey. So that's essentially where we are with our E&C programs. And Ideate, CoSTAR Ideate, the call we're going to talk about today, is the first one of the programs out the door from our team. We'll be running multiple programs every year into the future. Our next programs later in the year are probably going to be focused more on scale-ups and high growth companies. But this one we'll talk to you about today is really based on providing companies with the foundations to grow sustainable businesses into the future. So I'll hand back to you, Nicole. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Fiona. So to start a little bit about Ideate, because that's obviously what you're all here to hear about. So what is Ideate? So Ideate is, as Fiona said, our first of the enterprise and commercialization programs. It's looking to support the development of early stage startups and micro SMEs and early growth companies who are looking to scale their new IP within the creative technology sector. As said, and as you'll have seen from the kind of call briefs, that's been delivered by the 4 physical labs and our partners with Codebase, who you hear from in a second. In kind of summary of the program, it's a 5-month residency, and we'll have 24 companies selected across the program, with 6 attached to each of the CoSTAR labs. That's the National Lab Real-Time Screen and Live Lab. The Growth Lab business development sessions will be delivered by Codebase, and they'll be able to go a little bit more into detail, but they're here to help you develop your business and grow specific skills and strategies. The program is designed as a low risk route for companies to help develop both your business and your products alongside each other, with access to the technical support offered through CoSTAR, and help fill in the gaps in IP and company development pipelines. One of the great things about it is that we're not taking any equity and there are no fees to apply. And we're really excited to have hopefully some people on this call join our programme. Fiona, I'll hand over to you to talk a little bit about who we're looking for.
Great, thank you. Next slide, please. We've kept the brief for Ideate quite broad, but do bear in mind that this program is aimed at companies who will likely be pre-revenue or early revenue generating. You may have been successful with 1 or 2 Innovate UK R&D grants. So you've got a slate of IP and development, but you haven't had the support or time or capacity in your company to step back and go, right, what is the long-term plan for the business I want to grow? What do I want that business to look like? Where are the market opportunities in creative technology and in this new space for me as a business and for the ideas I want to develop? You might have committed to work on an idea or have a really early stage product in development focused on emerging and enabling technologies in the screen and performance sector, and you need the space and the business growth expertise to help you develop that idea. You might want to experiment with new research. You might want to experiment about how to adopt these new technologies into your existing pipeline. You may require access to de-risk some experimentation you want to do without that being a threat to the company. So you need a safe space and the expertise to help you do that. We also might see technology-based businesses looking to develop solutions in the creative tech sector, and they haven't really worked in the creative tech sector before, but they're responding to changing market conditions and opportunities. Probably the answer is, should you apply to this program or not, if any of these kind of areas resonate with you, that's where you might be at in your growth cycle, please do. It's always better to apply than not apply. It's a really simple application process. If you are much later stage and where you need to be is actually getting your product or service to market, you're trying to find a route to audiences, then this likely is not the space for you to do that. But we will be working on programs later in the year that will absolutely be targeted on that space. So thank you.
Thanks, Fiona. So to talk a little bit about the growth, program timeline. So as said, the business support section of the program will be top and tailed by Codebase, who will be working with you for the first 5 weeks and then the last 3. We'll kick off in person at Production Park at Live Lab on the 6th and 7th of May, which is really exciting. And then the Codebase sessions will be once a week for the first 5 weeks. And then for June, July and August, you'll join your respective labs for the development time. And during that development time, there'll be access obviously to the infrastructure. There'll be desk space available. And then of course, access to the expertise at each of the labs. And along the whole of the program, there'll be a mentorship package. So during the time that you're with Codebase, Codebase will have their own mentors that will talk to you a little bit more in a bit more detail shortly. And then when you're with the labs, there will be sector-specific and specialist mentors who you'll be able to work alongside during the 3-month development time in each of the labs. The whole idea is that this is a continuing program that we feel supported from start to finish, and that you're able to tap into the expertise and the unique offer that is offered by CoSTAR. Then, once you've had your five intensive months, we will get together for a showcase event to bring yourselves together with industry and representatives across from across the UK to celebrate the hard work that you've put in over the 5-month programme. So from now, I will hand over to Billy to talk a little bit about Codebase. Billy, over to you.
Thanks, Nicole, and yeah, thanks everyone for joining today and for your interest in CoSTAR Ideate. We're very excited about our partnership with CoSTAR Network and supporting more tech businesses and companies with core IP get to market, which is really at the heart of what we do at Codebase. So we describe ourselves as an ecosystem builder organization. We're based in Edinburgh, but we work nationally across the UK with different organizations. And our broad mission is to build better startups, which we do by working with lots of partners, including governments, local authorities, corporates, investors, and academia. And we go about this mission in various different ways, but one of those main ways is by delivering programs like Ideate. So we've been doing it for 10 years now. We started as a co-working space in Edinburgh, and then back then we just had lots of tech startups and tech entrepreneurs in one space, building things together, pulling in the same direction, building a community. And we've since expanded that into a network of co-working spaces across Scotland and a number of programs that we run to support that community. And those programs run from early ideation and experimentation all the way through to growth, scaling, investment, exit, etc. And in that time, in those 10 years, we've supported over 2,000 startups, and they've collectively raised over $4.5 billion. So that's companies that we've either worked with directly on programs or companies that have worked from our co-working spaces. Could I have the next slide, please, Nicole? So for Ideate, we're delivering a program to support businesses go to market successfully. So you may have heard the stat that 95% of startups fail, and there are a lot of common and easy to avoid mistakes that are linked to this stat and that are the main reasons that these startups fail. So what we've done is we've designed a program around these common failure points, specifically for IP-rich businesses, with the goal to support you to make fewer mistakes or to help you identify when you are making mistakes so you can stop those earlier and move on to building different things and solving different problems. So the program runs through all the topics on screen here. Phase 1 and 2 is about exploration and validation. So here we'll look at what the startup landscape is, how startups grow, how they differ from other businesses, and we'll start to take a problem-focused approach. So asking you what problem you're solving and what value you are creating for those that are experiencing that problem. And then we'll look at the market, so the broader market, what is it that you're operating within, how big is that market, and how can you design for the market or adjacent markets that might share the same problem. We'll then start to look at understanding your customers, building some customer research plans, and working on a customer-led approach. So maybe you've developed a technology or you're building some new IP, but now you're looking for the right problem that that piece of technology or that idea solves. How can we find the right problem to enter the market with? So who are you solving for, and how are you solving for them? And then we'll talk about experimentation and rapid iteration. So we want to make sure that we're not building something big that doesn't have a use. So we're going to sort of implement this fail fast approach to experimentation that we can learn quickly from, and ultimately help us develop the product. So looking at what early product to market might look like, using this term MVP, minimum viable product, I'm sure you're aware of. We sometimes refer to it as minimum valuable product. So what is the minimum product you can launch that has value for your user and solves their problem? Then we'll go away over summer for the 8-week development time with the CoSTAR infrastructure at the various labs. And then in phase 4, after summer, we'll come back and look at how to build a sustainable business around the problem that you're solving. So how to take a product to market and earn money from customers, commercializing the IP that you've created and how to protect that IP and leverage it in different ways. And I think that's particularly interesting in this space because the IP that you're creating, there might be more than one commercial opportunity for that product or that IP. And then we got to look at what funding in this space looks like, and what funding in the market you're in looks like. So how to future-proof is not just about protecting the IP, but it's about sort of looking at investment strategies, setting yourself up for the long term, not making common investment and shareholder mistakes, all those sort of common failure points that we've discussed throughout the program. And then, as with any product or investment focused business program, there'll be a bit about pitching and proposals, which we like to look at slightly differently to other organizations. It's less prescriptive, it's less about kind of the strict formats. It's more about looking at the different timeframes that you might be presenting this over, the different audiences that might be listening to you. So, investors, customers, future employees. How do you convey the value of your problem solving solution to them? How do you tell your story? How do you build a good narrative around that? Could I have the next slide, please, Nicole? So at Codebase, we design the program flow, and then we bring in different experts for each of these sessions. So most of the Codebase team has a background in building startups. So the design of the program is based largely on their experience. And then what we do is we bring in experts in these spaces who have done it as a founder or as an early team member, or they're an expert in that industry. Because these are people that have done it for real and they've either succeeded or they've failed in this space, and it's important that we learn from both. So the structure of the sessions are 10 2-hour sessions across the 8 weeks in phases 1, 2, and 4. So that's a May to June section and then the September section. In every session, we'll have a workshop element, and these are sort of hands-on, interactive, make sure that you're really getting in touch with the learnings that we're trying to teach. And then there will be some panels for experts to share their stories and opportunities for Q&A sections as well. And then alongside that, we're offering 3 1-hour mentorship sessions per company on the program. So we currently have more than 90 mentors on our mentorship books across the UK. And these are people who have a lot of industry experience or startup building experience, and they can help guide you through your challenges by sharing the experiences that they've had themselves. The way that works is that you'll be matched with a mentor who is the best fit for your industry or your market or your technology, or it may even be that they're just someone who's experienced exactly the same problem that you're trying to work through when you're getting your product to market. And then, as with anything like this, we like to end with a showcase. So it's good to celebrate the journey that you've been on. You can implement some of the pitching and proposal work that you've been doing, reflecting on how your thinking has changed throughout the program. And this is really a good place to pitch your progress to your cohort, and also to the broader ecosystem, and make new connections in that way. So that's a very quick overview of Codebase's role in CoSTAR Ideate, and I'll hand back over to Nicole now for the rest of the webinar.
Thanks, Billy. Lovely. I'd now like to bring in Miles Burney, who is the Head of Innovation at the National Labs, to talk a little bit through what we will be offering here.
Thanks so much, Nicole, and thanks for that, Billy. Really interesting stuff. So yeah, hi, I'm Miles. I'm Head of Innovation, as Nicole described, at the National Lab. I'm actually based at the National Film and Television School, but working predominantly on CoSTAR. So the National Lab, I'm just going to start with making sure everyone knows where that is. We're currently located at Royal Holloway in Egham. And really, you know, our purpose here and what we're here for and what we're all about really is fueling growth across the UK's creative sector. I just want to talk a little bit about two aspects that we're bringing to bear to help with that. One around the infrastructure that we have available at Future Studio in Royal Holloway, and also just briefly touching on the expertise across our research partnership as well. And then I'll touch on the sort of applications that we're looking for from industry. So Nicole, do you think you could move on to the next slide, please? So we're bristling with great infrastructure at the Future Studio at Royal Holloway. There's a lot of the detail here repeated on our WebStar site at the CoSTAR Network. So do feel free to check it out there if there's any questions. But we've got a full sort of virtual production studio suite, as well as next generation audio capability, and also compute facilities, so CPU and GPU compute in the form of local GPU, and also cloud credits for companies on the Ideate program. If you just flick on to the next slide, please, Nicole. So as mentioned, infrastructure available, but as in many ways, as part of our vision of sort of infrastructure, we're also offering deep research expertise and industry partnerships as part of our sort of offer. Just to touch on the partnership at the National Labs, so we've got game technology expertise from Aberdeen University, Surrey University providing world-class AI and computer vision expertise, Royal Holloway leading on storytelling and multi-sensory experiences, and also the NFTS, where I'm based, with lots of advanced production and virtual production experience. And the industry partners that Fiona mentioned at the start, Disguise and BT and Pinewood. And really, we're looking for applications from industry that bring together ideas at the intersect of some of those areas from across our partnership. We're looking for companies to put forward ideas around, you know, areas where they're passionate about the intersect of creative technology, advanced production, and generative AI. We'd love you to apply. We're looking to support those companies with the infrastructure mentioned and the expertise outlined. And we're really particularly interested in companies with ideas that are focused on commercial and hopefully social value as well. To draw out a few of the areas, and you'll see the sort of interconnects with these areas with the research partnerships that I just kind of mentioned. So creation of rich interconnected virtual environments and with particular focus on real time. That is clearly linked with our expertise at Aberdeen University. The development of multi-sensory experiences, think about inclusivity, accessibility, intuitive user experience. Very much linked with the work and the research at Royal Holloway, and also from Surrey University with expertise in computer vision and AI, thinking about how generative AI can really support and enhance the creative process and IP development. We're super interested in that as well. And of course, with all this technology, the challenges of carbon footprint. So we're very interested and focused on how to do this work and support companies evolve their ideas, but also with a mind, a close eye on how we can do that in a sustainable way. So yes, offers in these areas of interest and the intersect across these very much of interest. If you could flick on to the next slide.
We're heading over to Live Lab.
We're going to head to Live Lab, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Miles. Yeah, and I'd like to bring up to the stage Professor Damien Murphy and Glenn Kelly to talk a little bit about their offer from Live Lab. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole, and good morning, everyone. Good to see you on the call. And I'm going to introduce Live Lab, and Glenn will pick up any gaps that I leave in what I'm about to say. But yeah, just to serve as a bit of an introduction, and I guess also if you apply to this call and you're successful, then we're going to have a kickoff session at our facilities and bring everyone together before the start. So it's hopefully will be useful for you to know a bit about where you might be coming, and you'll be coming to. Next slide, please, Nicole. production park in Yorkshire, which is the hidden jewel of our creative industries in the Yorkshire and the Humber. It's a site that you see on the map there where we are at the University of York on sort of day-to-day basis, and production park's about 50 minutes down the road from us. And situated between Wakefield and Doncaster. Often we say it's near Wakefield, but it's still about a half-hour sort of drive into the centre of Wakefield from where production park is. It's a large site, as you can see there, and it's the largest campus of live performance companies in Europe. And to give you an idea of the work that goes on there, it is a cluster of companies, and now the University of York, as part of the CoSTAR network, has a lab facility in the heart of that industry. And probably, well, you might not have heard of Production Park, but you'll certainly know of its work, because most of the world-leading tours that have passed through the UK and Europe over the last 20 years have probably got a connection to Production Park, ranging from Taylor Swift, because some of the stage design was done by Tate, who are based on site, to Motley Crue, who do some rehearsal there when they were touring here a few years ago. So a complete range of world-leading live performance companies come and do their work or connect with Production Park. So it's the right place for us to be as part of the CoSTAR network, particularly because we're Live Lab and we've got a focus on live performance. Next slide, please, Nicole. So again, as Miles has said, we've got an infrastructure. Oh, there's a slide there that shows a little bit of some of the spaces that are available to you to access when you come and join us as part of this program. There are large studios which are capable of running, you know, a whole live stage and building and deconstructing a stage before it goes out on the road. And there's a virtual production suite as well. And then there's our own facility, which is Live Lab, and beautifully logoed up there. You can see on the front of our building, which is where our main experimental space is. Now I'll get to the infrastructure bit, please, Nicole. So this is what we have. It echoes a little bit of what Miles has said is available at the National Lab. We have within our facility a future venues stage, which allows you to do actual performance-based work within our facility. We have various implementations of Vicon motion capture, both marker-based and markerless-based. We have our user experience laboratory, which includes various biometric data capture sensors, so we can test the impact of content on audiences and understand how people react to them. We have various real-time vision and high computing infrastructure there as well, and as part of also the 5G mobile network that connects all the labs together that are part of the CoSTAR network. L-Acoustics immersive audio system, which can be deployed for live performance events and was done very effectively for our launch, where we had Jamie Cullen performing on stage and interacting with remote performers as part of his performance in an immersive audio system. And we have our 2 network performance studios, completely isolated labs, where we have the ability to connect performers together from those isolated facilities with the stage or elsewhere in the UK to enable you to test the idea of how you bring together liveness when your performers are situated remotely. Various virtual reality and augmented reality sort of headsets and devices to enable you to explore some of the content that you might make in different ways. And again, you can also have access to the virtual production facility that we have at Production Park as well. And we also have a digital twin of the Live Lab facility. So if you want to explore it purely in the digital world and how then your ideas translate into the physical world, we can also help you with that. Next slide, please, Nicole. And coupled with that hardware infrastructure, we have various expertise that we bring to bear on Live Lab, which is based on 20 years of world-leading R&D work that we've done from the University of York Audio Lab. And so a lot of our work is based in audio technology and live performance, but then how that then extends into new experiences. So this slide gives you a sort of sense and a taste of the various expertise that we have. We have a team involved in postdoc researchers, the main investigators on the project, and technicians who can support you to realise those ideas. Again, a lot of what we do is echoed in the other labs across the CoSTAR network, but I guess the thing that makes us a bit unique is about the liveness aspect. We're interested in what this live performance might be, this convergence of technologies and experiences that is no longer online, but no longer fully present in the physical world, and what they might look like in the future. And we're really interested in how you might want to come and explore those ideas, our expertise and our technologies to make that happen. Next slide, please, Nicole. So this is just a bit of a wrap up, and if you'd like to find out a little bit more about what Live Lab does or get a sense of some of the projects that we're currently running through there, we have our Access program, and we've got 3 events planned over the coming months, either in person or online or hybrid, where you can find out a little bit more about what we're doing and what we hope to do, and how you can be part of that either via the Ideate program or the PPP program or some other interaction. So go and have a look at our Eventbrite page, which is there, and it give you an opportunity to engage and find out a bit more about what we do. Glenn, anything else you want to pick up on that?
No, that was great. Thanks, Damien. Just echo what Damien said there, to come along and sign up to one of our events and have a look around the facility if you get time.
Lovely. Thank you both so much. So very quickly before we jump into questions, some key dates for your diary. So feel free to screenshot this if so you've got it straight to hand. But applications will close at 10 a.m. on the 24th of March, so coming up swiftly. Thursday, the 10th of April, will start to be contacting successful applicants. If you are successful, the kickoff, as mentioned, is the 6th and 7th of May. And then Wednesdays in May for the Codebase online sessions, June, July, August for in-person development time with the CoSTAR Labs, and then Mondays and Wednesdays in September for the follow-up Codebase sessions, and then Wednesday, the 17th of September, hold in your diaries for the showcase and wrap event. And that will also be in person. Lovely. So thank you all so much to our speakers. And over to you. We've already got a couple of questions that have come in through the Q&A. So what I'll do very quickly, feel free to turn your video and microphone on if you would like to be, but please obviously remember that this is still being recorded. So if you don't feel comfortable with that, feel free to pop questions in the Q&A and chat, but we'll get started as you think about what you might want to ask as well. I'll just very quickly run through some of the Q&A questions that have come in. Firstly, from Matthew Horn, we have, are the cloud credits attached to a specific provider, and does this include AI compute? Is this larger or different than startup programs that cloud provider offers to qualified startups? That's in the chat. In the Q&A, sorry.
I'm happy to pick up on that one, and Miles can jump in, because I think, Matthew, that's in relation to the National Lab. We are talking to multiple providers basically at the moment to get a better supportive offer than what would be the qualified startup support programs like those offered by Google. So because we have the additionality, so that's for cloud, we've also have the additionality for on-site support as well, but Miles might talk to, which is probably more unusual in that that is actually part of our infrastructure and on offer for businesses who are working with us at the Nat Lab. If you wanted to pick up on that, Miles.
Yeah, thanks, Fiona. Yeah, just to say we're building a bank of infrastructure connected to our studio, so that's going to be available as well. We're just in the process of purchasing some 1590s that feed into that bank as well. So that's all on site, and then we're looking to, as Fiona mentioned, provide access to a cloud provider. That's a work in progress in terms of specifics on the provider, but it will be a well understood and kind of, you know, one of the standard few, as mentioned in the question. So fairly well understood in terms of how to use that. And we're also working with Surrey University around some cloud compute that they're trying to get online. So it might be a blend of the 2 different cloud provider offerings, one more so focused on offline processing and one more so for interactive processing.
Lovely. Also from Matthew, we've got, does the programme support collaboration within the cohort? Is this an explicit goal of the programme or an unplanned but hopefully serendipitous outcome?
Damien, you might want to pick up on that, seeing as you're kicking us all off in Production Park on the beginning of the programme.
Yeah, I can speak from our experience in another context as well of working with Codebase on another program, and it was absolutely the bringing together of the cohort that was one of the most valuable things about the whole thing, and about the collaborations and conversations that emerged between the participants. So fundamentally, although you'll each spend a bit of your time in each of the individual in your own lab as part of the program, it's about bringing you together and building your own support network as you go through your growth. So fundamentally, we want you to collaborate and work with each other as much as working on your own ideas and projects with each of your labs. So yeah, built into the program, definitely, and Codebase do that so well.
Thanks, Damien.
Absolutely. Oh, go on, sorry, Fiona.
We're all jumping in. As you can see, this is something that's really key and critical part of the programme. There will be ways in which we'll be facilitating dialogue across team members whilst on the programme. As Damien mentioned, we've got a kick-off and a closing in-person event. And also we will be moving everybody who comes off that programme into alumni network, where we'll be continuing to offer support and in-person and online ways to continue your relationships.
Yes, and absolutely. And just to jump in as well, the masterclasses that you might have seen on the timeline, they will be done sort of as like watch parties, where we'll encourage the cohorts to get together in their respective labs. So there is opportunity, obviously, to kind of coalesce around your lab, but also then obviously communicating widely both online and in those in-person touch points with the wider cohort as well. Next one, just because it might be applicable to a few more people, there is a question around not being available for the in-person on the 6th and 7th. Fiona, I can just kind of echo your answer of please do still apply if you can't be in person. We'd love to, we don't want to necessarily rule anyone out. We'll love to see how we can support you for those like in-person ones if it's not feasible for yourself. And then we had one from in chat, which Damien, I saw you respond to, but you might want to kind of elaborate on. Is this viable for music tech companies conscious of the emphasis on the film industry?
Yeah, as I said in the chat, absolutely. I guess as various media technologies and performances and content makers converge through technology, I guess the boundaries become a little bit more blurred. So virtual production technology is being used in other industries, but the language comes from the film industry. So yeah, music tech companies, of course, we're very interested in them in Live Lab because of our background in music tech and audio, and we've worked with lots of music tech companies before in our sort of day-to-day R&D work at the university. So yeah, definitely all sectors of the creative industries focusing on film, TV and live performance, we're interested in hearing from you.
And that's across the board, just to add to that, so same position at National Lab. We're really interested in that converged opportunity space. We aren't just focused on film at all. So it's a good question. Thanks for asking it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to follow up on that one as well, if you are already quite far along in the process of Codebase phase 1 and 2, would Ideate process be viable for us? Do you have to be at the very start? We have an MVP with a few users.
I just picked up on that in chat to say, please apply and state where you are in your growth cycle. I know Billy and Codebase have said there is a level of adjustment within support across the stages of business growth, as outlined by Billy earlier on the programme, and also the one-to-one mentorship that will be available will plug specific gaps. If you find you need to have a little bit more later stage support, but I think I probably wouldn't be the first person to say that going through a growth process with a provider like Codebase is actually just a useful process in terms that it sometimes will ask the questions that maybe perhaps you haven't addressed before, and also maybe approach things from a slightly different angle. So I think there would be value. Please apply and state where you are, and then we can have a conversation as well offline if that will help.
Absolutely. Billy?
Yeah, sorry, just to reiterate what Fiona said, a lot of our programs are designed to work sort of in both directions. So we find a lot of our sort of later stage people return to early stage programs just to make sure that they're ironing out that kind of deep business learning. And because the programs are expert led, there is still plenty of value to extract from those sessions, even if you have encountered some of the content before. The fact that you have exposure to these experts and these mentors means that there is still plenty for you to gain from these programs.
Lovely, thank you. Just moving over to the chat, we've got a comment from Simon. We have an EdTech AR product that is well developed and needs a final push to develop some geolocation and AI integration, then tests with potential market. Will this be eligible? What you offer is really exciting, and we need the expertise in growth and taking to market.
I can pick up on that, and Billy, and perhaps somebody from a specialism perspective on what it is you're doing within EdTech. I think that the first thing to say is we're looking for companies who will be, whether you're currently and see yourself as a company operating in the creative industry sector or not, we're looking for companies who will be developing applications and solutions and IP that will have value within the creative sector. So I think that's one thing to bear in mind with in terms of what you're developing. And the second part of that question was on later stage. Maybe Billy can pick up on that and others jump in.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of connecting with the relevant kind of mentors and adapting the program to make it relevant to the product you're building, absolutely, there are definitely lessons within the program that will help you find those first customers that you're talking about. What was the second part of the question that you'd like me to pick up on there, Fiona? Sorry.
Nicole might just remind us. Yeah,
it's the expertise in growth and taking to market.
Yes, I mean, yes, exactly. So we have those connections, those mentors that have been through those experiences and have been through those stages that would definitely be able to connect you with and support you at whatever stage of the journey you're on.
And there's a specific mention there around needing some final push or help, I think, around developing geolocation and AI integration. So, that's the sort of support we're looking to try and, get involved with. I think coming back to Fiona's point around, direction and travel and trajectory around the creative industries, I guess being quite a key element there.
Just to follow up on as well, is EdTech not considered creative sector? We make immersive live experiences and have moved into the EdTech ideas.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, thank you for the additional information there. That sounds absolutely in scope.
Lovely. Also, in the Q&A box, hi, I'm the founder of, apologies if I mispronounce this, Androdica Labs, sorry, is the recipient of Innovate UK Creative Catalyst funding, and we're moving on to our next stage of R&D with Road to Market. Our mission statement is social impact and the future of work for individuals from socially, economically challenged, neurodivergent and disabled backgrounds. Is this a focus of CoSTAR and the labs? I mean, I absolutely. I don't know if anyone else wants to pop in, but absolutely, that's an area of interest for us. EDI and social impact is something that underpins all of our programs and will continue to do so throughout the entirety of CoSTAR.
Perfect.
I think there's a follow-up point there, which is an immersive opera lab and Web 3D. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
sounds great.
100%. Sounds great. A follow-on from Matthew again. The company I am leading on has been part of the UKRI and Innovate UK programs that have offered some similar programs, investment, pitching advice, product discovery, coaching, so on and so forth. How much overlap is there in terms of content, and are those alumni networks part of the CoSTAR alumni program?
Great question. I think the thing to bear in mind is CoSTAR's focus on the convergent screen technologies, advanced emerging enabling technologies in that space, which has a slightly more specific focus than the broader creative industry support. And they're all fantastic programs. We know them well, and we work very closely with Innovate UK Business Connect and with the teams there that run the Creative Growth Alumni Program, for example. So we are all one part of that UKRI family, and absolutely in discussions about how we connect. A big part of what we do, and we didn't touch on it earlier, but we're about connecting into and growing the wider UK ecosystem in this space. That does mean we will be partnering with and do knowledge exchange and connecting across the bigger ecosystem. But bear in mind that slight nuance, and Damien and Miles might want to pitch in as well. It's much more specialized support. There's the key thing about CoSTAR Network is access to the infrastructure. We're delivering programs within the infrastructure, which is not part of those other programs. Access to the research base, which is not available in other programs. So that's a key point in my slide. We wrap this around rather than just generic business support.
So thank you so much. Was Miles or Damien, was there anything you wanted to drop in on that? Oh, good. Are we able to discuss applications and get feedback with the CoSTAR team prior to submitting? Yeah, as Fiona said in the comment, please get in touch. I dropped the email in the chat, but I'll post it again before the end. And as Kylie has also said, do click on the link to apply and have a look at the brief, and you can start an application to see all the questions without having to finish it. You can save it in draft. So if there's anything that pops out from that, obviously please do get in touch, but obviously make sure you've looked at the application and everything in advance. That'd be helpful for us as well. Is there any, I think we've got all the questions are in the chat. There's a couple of anonymous ones actually that have popped in as well. How much time commitment is needed from her team? I can cover that a little bit as well. So I can in the program brief. Thank you. Sorry, my words just completely escaped me. In the program brief, you'll be able to see at the bottom there is for each of the phases kind of the expected time commitment. Code base, each session will be a couple of hours, and then the in-person development time will be roughly about 40 hours over the course of the 2 to 3 months over the summer. Another anonymous question, can I apply to any lab, or will you allocate our company to a specific lab? I'm happy to pick up on that one as well. So in the application form, you can select which lab you feel is most relevant for you. You don't have to necessarily be in the same geographic location. Obviously, please do take into account that if you are applying to a lab that you are not super close to, there is a travel stipend of £2,000 that's available to all companies who are selected, and there is the access bursary as well. But please obviously be mindful of there is obviously the time commitment to be in person at each of the, at your respective labs. So make sure that you feel like you have capacity to be able to, and the resource to be able to take that on for yourself and your business. I don't know if anyone else wants to pop in on that specifically. Cool, great. Anything else in the chat? Let me just double check. I mean, we obviously any more questions? If you want to chat, want to say anything, feel free to pop your hand up and turn your mics on. I realise we've been doing a lot of the talking over the past 50 minutes. So anything else from anyone?
It's always good to ask questions, because you'll probably ask a question somebody else is waiting to ask, or will respond in a way that might help others better understand. And I think the point we said earlier, do talk to us before you apply. And as I said earlier, we've really worked hard to try and keep this application process very simple. Application process light touch. So applying is better than not applying, but if in doubt, give us a call and we're very happy to talk through with you.
Well, so what I've done, if there's no more questions, I've posted the CoSTAR Enterprise email in the chat again, and so please feel free to get in touch if you have any follow-up questions that come to you later, or you might not feel comfortable necessarily asking on the call. Otherwise, thank you all so much for your time today. Thank you so much to our speakers, and we really look forward to receiving your applications for Ideate. Remember, it closes on the 24th of March, so coming around sharply. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Go grab some lunch, and yeah, have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
Nicole. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for coming.
Bye.